This week's guest has been a full-time real estate investor since 2001. Really, she got started real estate investing when she was 17 years old. So this guest is bringing a lifetime of experience to the conversation. Plus, she's a USC alum, just like me. So we had some fun with that as well. So be sure to tune in as we dive in with Christina Suter. So many lessons learned in terms of long distance investing, in terms of mindset, and in terms of just general how to be in it for the long term. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Freedom Blueprint. I'm so excited to have you listening today. I'm Adrienne Green, and today I have with me Christina Suter. Thank you for being with me.
I'm so excited to be here, and thank you for having me on the show. I just love what you're doing with The Freedom Blueprint and how you're really trying to help people move forward and trying to understand what it means to create your financial freedom and giving them real stories about how to do that. It's all about stories and it's all about grit, right? Like, what can we do? How can we do this? We're all human beings trying to get it done. And I love that you bring that element to it.
Oh, you're so sweet. I'm so excited. We're going to have a great conversation. And for listeners, Christina, one of the things I love about her is she's based in the Pasadena area, which I don't talk about too much here, but I went to USC in LA and then I worked in Pasadena right afterward. I guess a special place in my heart for Pasadena, and she's joining us from there. And that's exciting.
Even worse, I went to USC too. Right on. Okay, here's the funny part. Okay, USC is all about the football games. And I never attended a football game until after I graduated. I know it's silly, but it's funny. I did attend one fraternity party.
That's probably a record for lowest number.
I think so. I think it's record for lowest number. I think the only number lower is 0.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess there's probably certain, groups of students that would apply to. I know that I definitely went to more than one. We'll just leave it at that.
Good for you. See, you actually use the advantages of USC. But it's good. It's a great school. It's a great university. I'm really glad I went. Maybe my daughter will go, although honestly, she's considering UCLA.
Oh, no. I don't know. You might have to disown her, right?
I know, with UCLA, maybe. But I did go to UCLA as well. Oh, no.
Even
Even
one
worse.
of those.
No, that's
okay.
it. The podcast is over. You're kicking me off. We're done.
It's okay. I have some good friends who went to UCLA. And to be honest, you guys had a better location in UCLA for college. At least, I'm sure when you went and I went there, USC, it's better now. But oh my goodness. I remember once I was at, the University Village for a study session and somebody stole my bike seat off my bike. And because the area is so bad there, I couldn't just walk home with my bike. It wouldn't have been safe. So I had to call my roommate to come pick me up and then come back the next day and get my bike and get a new bike seat. But those were the adventures of USC.
Yeah, I lived on 3rd Street, which is just north of USC, in a room share, and which is what I'm doing now, by the way, is I'm doing a room share in Indianapolis. I'm like, oh, I remember this. I was a college student when I did a room share, right? In a room share, and they broke into my car in my window in order to steal my sunglasses. That's all they got. What they got was sunglasses. I'm like, oh, okay, well, there you go. Enjoy the sunglasses.
Ridiculous. And I remember a thing when I was there, and this is the last thing. The last thing we'll have.
Right,
and then we'll move on.
Then we'll get to real estate.
But
okay, go ahead.
I remember it was a thing when I was there that they were stealing the gas out of gas tanks and then putting water back in so it ruins your engine. I'm like, really? Really, people?
Just take the gas. If you're going to be that desperate, take the gas, but why put the water? That's sort of above and beyond.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So we have made it through and we have grit. We can succeed in real estate investing. So Christina, you have so much to share. I want to dive in and I want to start at the beginning of what made you get into real estate investing in the first place? What prompted you to take that leap?
All right. So my mom. You can blame my mom for most of my financial education. Rock on, Mom. Good job. Right. So she sat me down when I was 12 and showed me the LA Times and showed me the paper where all the stocks were listed at the time. And she said, you see all these little numbers? This is a company. And if you give them money, they send you money back. And they'll send you more money than they gave you. Like, which one do you think would be really good? Do you want to do Federal Express? That's the guy who comes to the front door. Do you want to do Wrigley's Gum? Because you really love Wrigley's Gum. And I did Wrigley's Gum, right? And I was like, well, is there an ice cream company in here? Because I love ice cream. Right. I did Wrigley's Gum. That was my first foray into stocks and understanding stocks. And then at 17, my mom couldn't live in the family house anymore because, and I don't know if you remember 3rd-degree smog alerts in San Gabriel in the valley. Do you remember those?
I remember how bad the air quality was in LA overall,
at that time. So my mom had really bad asthma, and she would literally go to the hospital if she got sick, and there was a 3rd-degree smog alert. She'd be in the hospital. So she's like, I can't keep living here. See? So she asked all 3 of his kids, well, somebody take care of the house. I'm like, sure, go, Mom, go. I'll take care of the house. Don't worry about it. And then she's like, okay, here. And she gave it to me. She literally titled it over to me. I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? I'm 17. I'm going to USC for college. At least I'm close, but I have no idea. I now have a
My
house.
goodness. You were
And I got
only
all this
17.
I was only 17. I have all this furniture. And I'm like, Mom, what am I supposed to do with all furniture? She says, do whatever you want. She's like, sell it. I'm like, no, I don't want to sell all of it. So I literally got like an auction company who came in, grabbed a bunch of the furniture, sent a bunch of it into storage. I rented out to my aunt and, well, I call my aunt and uncle. They're my godparents, right? With Steve and Karen. And I rented that and they bought it from me on an installment sale. Right, which I
Wow.
knew nothing about eventually. And then eventually I bought a condo for my brother, and then my mom needed another house. Always rent to your parents. I'm just saying, because when my mom finally found a place she wanted to live, I bought a house for her to live in, which she didn't want in her name because she was worried about estate taxes and how old she was and her lung problems and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
she took care of it, pride of ownership. I mean, it was just beautiful. I have pictures of what it was like before and what it was like when she was done. It had accumulated over $750,000. I realized a gain of almost $1 million when I went to sell it.
My
I bought it
goodness.
at 350. I sold it at 1.2.
Wow. And what area was that in? I'm just curious.
Healdsburg, California, before Healdsburg became part of the Napa Valley. And then all of a sudden it's
Okay.
like, oh, the cute little town of Healdsburg gets, is now part of the Napa Valley tours and people think it's so cute. And now her house is much more valuable and she took good care of it. So that was when I really there's 2001. And that's when I was like, okay, I worked. Right? Like so many of us, I worked. I finished with my bachelor's in business at USC. I then went to UCLA for a couple sessions to reposition myself for, actually I went and got my, to Marymount, got my teacher's credential, repositioned myself at UCLA to do a psychology degree, got my master's in psychology. I had jobs in between all of those degrees. I was working as a receptionist. I worked in childcare. I worked as an infant room head teacher. So I worked in marketing. My
Yeah.
boss politely fired me, and then I promptly dated him after he fired me. That's a story for another time. My marketing job fired me, but that's okay. That's okay. So there you go. But eventually in 2001 was when I became a full-time investor because it wasn't hard to replace like an assistant teacher's salary, right? That was not difficult.
Right.
So I had now had enough money. I bought an apartment building in Van Nuys, an 18-unit on a street called Magnolia. And I still feel like that's good juju to this day. I use Magnolia all the time in my name. My business name's Magnolia because it was my first apartment building. And it cash flowed. So there you
Love
are.
it.
All of a sudden I went from, worker bee, blah, 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 to, hey, I have enough money that I'm actually cash flowing. And I became a professional investor.
Well, and one of the things I love that you hit on there is, we've got people who want to get into real estate investing, and sometimes we can always see our situation in like a scarcity mindset, right? And
Yes.
people who don't have a huge income, right? They've got their full-time job, their W-2, whatever that is. And I'm like, ugh, it doesn't make that much, so I don't have that much to save. Well, on the flip side, it's easier to replace it and go full-time into real estate investing versus those people who are making multiple six figures. That takes more time and more work to replace that income from real estate investing.
It is something I learned from the Purple Book, the Rich Dad Poor Dad book. Is that one of the things about entrepreneurs is that our advantages, which we might be willing to embrace, is like a tip, is knowing that you can have a smaller lifestyle. Like, I mean, how many times Mick Blackwell and, Clyde Wilson, I think his name's wrong, Ride with Clyde, their lifestyle wasn't very big. They never needed to have a lot because there was part of the joy of the entrepreneurship was the creation. And so a lot of entrepreneurs are people who are like, I don't really need a lot. I just need fulfillment and purpose. I need to have my day be something I want to align with. And what I need as far as home and car maybe isn't very much. And it actually adds to our risk tolerance because what we're needing to replace is easier, right?
Exactly. Love it. So you got started with that multifamily in Van Nuys on Magnolia.
Yes.
And where did you go from there? Now, I know that that's, we got 24 years of history there, roughly.
Yeah, we
So
do.
we don't need an exact play-by-play. But if we were to have broad strokes to go from there to here, what does that look like?
Okay, so then I took on the mantle of being a real estate investor. So I started taking real estate investment classes, and I read The Unofficial Guide to Real Estate, which was put out by a guy named Marty Stone. He was involved with Buckingham Investments. You guys are familiar with Buckingham, the real estate agency, which is a bit of a story because they eventually, years later, came and spoke at my meeting. And I was like, oh my God, you were my first book.
Goodness,
You were my first investment book, and now here you are at my meeting. This is so cool. Like full cycle.
Very cool.
But yeah, so I bought a apartment building in Magnolia, and then now I also had some other properties. I sold the condo, so I had more capital, and I started taking these classes, and I was now in masterminds, and I was in one mastermind, and we got together, and I bought some fourplexes in Knoxville, Tennessee, a 30-door Tennessee, another apartment building in LA, a single family in Fairfax. So now we're going from 2001 to 2006, 7, 8, and 9. Right? That whole time
Wow.
period. I was flipping in Los Angeles, in the Hollywood area, not necessarily just a lot around Los Angeles, but they seemed primarily in sort of that Hollywood area. And I was flipping in Oregon. I had a half flip project in Oregon. I owned some condotels in Hawaii. I lived in Hawaii for 2 years because I had a house I was rehabbing and I broke off some land, did a condo conversion to get the land broken. So all of this, right? So now we're talking
Amazing.
the next 6, 7, 8 years, right? I did all these things and I did a condo conversion in LA. And then 2009 happened. I got my ass handed to me. I was
Oh,
about 200,000 away from my first freedom number. You know how you create these freedom numbers? The first man, I hit that number. Woohoo! I am life. Life is successful. I am good. I'm a rock
right.
star. And then I lost almost $2 million in the
Oh,
downturn. I had $50,000 worth of savings, and I used all of it to hold up the properties during the downturn because you want to survive, right? So I used all the
right.
reserves on the condo conversion, which was a negative cash flow. The Portland, Oregon flip got completely stalled. They pulled the construction loan. I stopped flipping in LA. The condo tels went from $140,000 down to $14,000 in
My
value.
goodness.
Right? The multi-unit, one of the multi-units I owned, I bought at 2.4. I sold for 1.4 because I couldn't pay the property taxes because I ran out of my $450,000.
Hmm.
So I sat at my computer and went, I'm a big ass loser. I thought I was super great. Top of the hill, 2006, got married, told my husband, don't worry, I got it covered. He lives on a fixed income. Don't worry, I got it covered. Then I'm sitting in front of my computer and I'm like, wow, I really fricked this up. And I remember going, I'll just quit. Just forget it. I won't do real estate. Who cares? I don't need to do real estate. I can get a job. Come on, I've got a teacher's credential. I've got a master's in psychology. I can do something, right?
Right.
But would I like myself if I quit? Would I
Right.
really like who I am? Would I be proud of myself at 80 years old because I lived my life the way I wanted to live it? Was that really what I want to do? I went, no, I want to keep my self-like intact. And to do
Hmm.
that, I just got to face it. I got to swallow it. I got to sort all this out.
Right.
Sell the properties I need to sell, work out how to, live on whatever I need to do. I doubled down on my consulting practice. So I earned money through my consulting practice and I brought all my money home and I started doing hard money lending and I sold everything, working or not working. I sold it all, every single door. And I had about
Wow.
50 of my own and about 300 I shared with other partners and I sold everything.
And you went 100% into hard money lending with that?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Wow.
I did.
Okay. So there's a lot that we can unpack there.
Okay,
I'm
go ahead.
curious, just because I do hard money lending, so I'm going to sell, and I love it. I think it's doing well now, but selfishly, therefore, I'm going to ask, obviously you wanted to stay in real estate investing. Why was the best move for you to sell every door and get into hard money lending? Why was that the best choice?
The purpose of investing in real estate in my mind is to be able to have your financial freedom to fulfill your purpose in life. It's not about the money and it's not about the assets. It's about you having the life that you know that you want to live, that life, that vision in the back of your head. And my daughter was born in October of 2009, and I wanted to be a mom. And I wanted to pick up my daughter on time from school. My mom was a single mom raising 3 kids for part of my childhood, and I know what it's like to not have your mom pick you up on time for school. So it's this little, simple, meaningful moment that I wanted to give myself and my daughter, pick her up
Right.
on time from school. To fulfill that agenda, hard money lending was more than enough. It kept me out of the drama. It helped me be calm. I could do the hard money lending. I could have passive income. I could do my consulting work and pick
Hmm.
her up on time from school and be a present mom who could be
Right.
excited to be present to her.
Yeah. And I will say part of why I like hard money lending right now for me in my life is because we travel internationally all the time. Like I travel full time. So similarly, hard money lending doesn't require me to be somewhere at a certain time, right? It has a lot of flexibility. So different lifestyle. And yet that same goal of hard money lending gave the flexibility to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you craft, when you ask, why do real estate or whatever, why did that work for me, even though I'd just gotten beaten up? It's because I couldn't find another career that I could align with, that I had skills in, that fit my nature really well, and that I enjoyed. It was going to give me the freedom, the time freedom, and the choice freedom that being a hard money lender would give me. So hard money lending is a
Right.
great way of
Mhm.
investing.
Right.
Yeah, it works as far as apartment buildings. You have to kind of check in with them, especially if you're the property manager, which I never am. But you still have to check in with your property manager relatively regularly. Whereas with hard money, it's no, place the money out. it sends me checks. I need to make sure I get my checks. And then when that comes back in, I put more money out. And so maybe it depends upon the size of your portfolio. You might be placing money once a month. You might be placing money once every 2 weeks. You might be placing money once every quarter, but you're still getting those checks in. And that leaves you a lot of space and time to do exactly what you're talking about, right? I have
whatever
income
you want.
coming in. Whatever you want. I can travel. I can be a mom. I can do these things. So yeah, I have to
Love it.
agree with that.
Hiring a virtual assistant shouldn't be a guessing game. If you're ready to offload time-consuming tasks and scale your real estate investing business, my Real Estate VA Launchpad course gives you the exact roadmap to find, train, and manage high-performing VAs. Learn how to delegate like a pro and take back your time. Enroll now at adriennegreen.com/courses, and you'll find that link in the show notes below.
And now I know that from that point, because, we talked before we started the recording, that you do have properties in a lot of different markets at this point, right?
Too.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about that transition again from hard money lending back into having some doors.
So when my daughter went to kindergarten, I had more time. Remember, preschool was like, 2 or 3 hours in the morning. And in fact, I'm like sitting in front of the school doing, doing what I'm doing, whatever that is. Might be consulting work, might be, having the freedom to address my hard money loans. And then when she went to kindergarten, I'm like, 5 hours.
Right.
5 hours a day, 5 days a week. That's 25 hours. I can do the math. That left me 20 hours. That left me 20 hours to actually do some work. And then very quickly I started looking at, so she was born in 2009. So this is 2014, 2015. And the market was now it had a stall, and then it was starting to go up again. Remember, 2015 it stalled and then went up again. I went, okay. And so I started doing local flips. So I went back into that. And I also started looking at investing out of state again because I didn't want to invest in California. And I also wanted to do term renters instead of long-term renters. It had a lot of, when I started, the Magnolia building was officially a C building, maybe D. The Knoxville, Tennessee 30 unit. We kicked out a drug dealer. It took us a little while to get a hold of him and have him not open the door with a gun in his hand. So just saying, it took a little while to get him out. So I've owned some and I went, I don't like California, some of the California rules. I don't like the D buildings. But if I buy a single family home in Indianapolis, they don't have short-term rental rules. I'm now changing who my tenant is, the population, the way they treat it. I can get access to my buildings to rehab them as I need to, and it still will give me the appreciation of owning a piece of land. And it'll give me 1.5% of the income, even though my net income is not 1.5%. Then my net income is a long-term rental, but it's definitely higher, probably 1.2, higher than what a long-term rental income would be as far as net income. So it's worth the extra time and effort. So I specifically targeted a specific buy box based on the lifestyle I wanted to live and what I wanted from that investment. And that's when Indianapolis, out of 4 markets, Indianapolis ended up being the winner. So I started buying in Indianapolis and doing flips in LA.
I love the strategy. Like the strategy that you put into that. It wasn't happenstance. There's no like emotion or fear. It's like, here's where I want to be. Here's the goal. And what's going to get me there, right? Very analytical.
And I wasn't afraid to invest out of state because I invested out of state before. And I knew LA wasn't going to give me those rules that I wanted, the freedom around the midterm and short-term rentals. Team. Always got to build team first.
That's what I was going to ask. So, so many people, especially in California, they want to invest out of state, but it's scary, right? It's scary. They don't know where to start. What wisdom would you pass along to those people who are looking to be, long distance investors?
Easy, but hard. You want to have good rules that fits whatever your buy box is, whether that's a rehab buy box, like a BRRRR buy box, right? Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, or whether it's a, buy, rehab, sell, or buy and keep for long-term rentals without much rehab. You want to know what your buy box is. And that was what my buy box was. Then I picked 4 different cities in order to be able to implement that buy box. So I knew the cities would fit my buy box. That's based on my long-term plans and purpose of my portfolio and what I need in that segment of my portfolio, right? I wanted appreciation and I wanted some income. So that fit in my allotment schedule. Did the math. I like my math. I did good in math. I got A's in math. Can you tell I got A's in math?
The truth is, because I want to hit on that, so many people, they stress about real estate investing because they don't feel comfortable in math. But realistically, how difficult of a calculation are you doing with any of this?
I can't tell you how many times my clients say, if there's a dollar sign in front of it, I know how to do it. Right? It's all multiplication, right? It's really not that hard. It really is very, very simple, right?
Yes.
And especially if you get used to it. Like, it's not any more difficult than long division. Okay, if you can do long division, you can invest in real estate. I'm just saying.
Right. It's not calculus.
But it's not even close. But the reason why I chose Indianapolis was team on the ground. I knew I didn't want to put $1 into the market until I had a team on the ground that I knew would run the project. or the properties. And so when I went to Detroit, I met some team on the ground and they never brought me a property. It never got actionable. And then when I went to Pittsburgh, I'm like, well, I can see that there's actually more CDs here than I want. When I looked at Cleveland, I went, I don't want to invest in Cleveland because I didn't want the unemployment. So in Indianapolis, when I went to Indianapolis, the first team member I talked with, he gave me a great tour of Indianapolis and all, but he was not my guy. But while I was there, I said, hey, what about this? And what other real estate agents am I meeting? And what other contractors am I meeting? And I meet people along the way while I'm there. And then I had a phone call with a guy named Tom. He ended up being difficult later, but he was a great start. I had a phone call with a guy named Tom, and he's like, yeah, I'm a contractor and I'm a flipper. And let me send you. And while I was on the phone, he sent me his proof of his license. He sent me his insurance. Wow. He sent me his. I'm like, dude, okay, you're my team on the ground. I've got somebody I can turn my project over to who really knows what he's doing and has that competency. Then I bought my first property. So it's team on the ground first.
And what I was going to ask, as you were saying, oh, team on the ground, but then you answered it. But I want to highlight it because it's so important, is you went and visited and you interviewed or met with multiple potential team members while you were there. That's how you found your team, right?
That's how I found my team. Yeah, I don't hesitate to get on the ground. I never hesitate. I go once a quarter, I'm either flying to Indianapolis or Tulsa. A project's ending. I need to do final payout. I go get eyes on it. I want to buy a new property. My project manager has suggested a property. Before we finish our due diligence period of escrow, I want to get eyes on it. I remember the story about the guy who met my property manager at the door with the gun because he was a drug dealer. It was a 30 unit. We were trying to get him out. You know, I've learned that if I physically get there, I learn and notice all these things that are not in the pictures. As I'm driving over to the property, I'm like, oh, I'm 5 blocks away. There's the blood bank. There's, paydays.
The payday loans.
Payday loans. Thank you. There's the payday loans. There's the one building I didn't buy had a plasma donation, had a plasma center where they pay you for your blood and your plasma across the street. My project manager, Christina, you cannot buy that. Do you see what's across the street? This isn't, you say you don't want CD buildings. Come on. Right. Like they sell their blood across the street. What population needs to do that?
Probably going to be a C or D. Yeah.
It might be a C or D. I started in C's and D's. I'm not saying you don't start there. Absolutely. I value my experience, but I've learned now I don't want to be in that population.
Right. It's just not a match for what you want right now. Yeah.
Right. So I'm very, very like, nope, I'm going to go fly into the city. I'm going to look at it. I remember I was this guy wanted me to do a loan in Detroit, and I was flying from LA to Indianapolis, and I was on my way back in Indianapolis. I stopped in Detroit, put extra time between my flights, got in an Ubered to the place where the guy wanted me to do a loan, and I looked up and down the street. I went, that's his house looks great. But, 2 houses down, the upper porch was literally falling off. And the Uber driver's like, you're not getting out of the car, are you? I was like, well, I was going to. He's like, I don't suggest it. I'm like, okay. Like I understood what his job was. I understood why he wanted to do what he was doing. And I even appreciated his mission, which was to start cleaning Detroit up street by street. And I appreciated his mission, but I wasn't going to invest and put my money in the nicest house on that piece of the block where clearly the rest of the block was still stalled. I chose to not do that. I could have just as easily gone, wow, look at all this potential here. If it fit my buy box and I was looking for high appreciation with higher risk, I would have been like, sign me up for 5 more because it's going to go from 30,000 up to 130,000 really quite quickly when he starts hitting his stride. And I decided not to, but somebody else just as easily could. Does that make sense? Right. So I wanted to make sure that my bias isn't other people's bias. I've picked my bias based on my needs. People need to pick their bias based on their needs.
Exactly. That's a great thing about real estate is there's so many ways to do it. There's so many strategies. It's just a matter of what's the best fit for you. I guarantee there's something that is a good fit for everybody out there, right?
Absolutely. Your nature, your skills, and your purpose will align for understanding what your proper investment is. And therefore, you want to sustain it for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, because you're in your lane. You're in your lane.
Exactly. So I know we're wrapping up soon here. What I would love to, I know you like to talk about mindset. So I'd love to take a few minutes to kind of talk about mindset, because that's really, I think, what separates, the successful people from the not. It's not anything else, but just that mindset piece.
Here's how I experience it, and maybe other people will experience it the same way. When I was starting to do mindset work, I was like, can I just lift my head up? Can I just look right at what I want to look at? Can I, there's like this feeling of like this ceiling on top of you. Like you can't, or like this, like everything feels dark and tunnel-like instead of like open, like horizon line. Like, oh, wow, look at all the possibilities, right? And so it's like I had to get past that first. I had to go, no, I can lift my head up. I can do more. I can trust myself. And I did years of personal growth work. And I didn't grow up in the best. God bless my mom. She did great. She gave me my financial education, but she was also a difficult lady sometimes. Remember I said single mom, raising 3 kids, highly anxious. Yeah, kind of
Yeah.
loud. Just kind of that loud lady at home, like, oh, mom's mad again. Okay, everybody disappear to your rooms. So like that. But I learned that this ceiling that I feel is under my control. I can choose it. I think it's Einstein who said you can't solve the problem with the same mind that created the problem. So
Right.
you need to be willing to either do therapy work or go to personal growth workshops. I went to Insight. I went to Landmark. I can suggest Mindspring. There are a variety of very good workshops that are really wonderful. I got a master's in spiritual psychology. I went to UCLA, worked on abnormal psychology at UCLA. I really doubled down on, I don't want this ceiling on top of my head. And the only way to make it go isn't by doing more out here. It's by aligning in here. And I have to go to other people to help me reveal.
Right.
This is why I'm scared. My mom yelled at me. You know what? This is the message I have from my mom yelling at me. And guess what? I can reprogram that message. I can put a new direction in my own thinking, in my own subconscious, if I'm but willing to. So
Right.
sometimes the bravery is being willing to face yourself and what felt so hard as a kid, as much as having the bravery to take on a complex project. For me, that's where I found my bravery.
I'm sure that message is getting to somebody who needs it in this podcast. So thank you for sharing that.
I hope so. That would be a joy for me.
I love it. I can just tell, Christina, that kind of like me, you're out there because it's this whole thing, this real estate investing has made such a difference in your life that you seem like a true believer, you might say, right? Somebody who
I
just
am. I'm
wants
a
to
true
go help
believer.
others.
I've drunk in the
do it
Kool-Aid,
the same.
100%.
I'm with you on that. Okay. This has been so fun. And yet we are at the end of our time. So we're going to wrap up with our closing quick fire questions. I'm excited for your answers because we haven't dug into it too much. So I think we're going to learn some more in this. But
Okay,
first
great.
question, what's your go-to tool for managing operations?
Who, not how. There's a book called Who, Not How. And really understanding the who is the person who's going to manage my operations. I'm ADHD and dyslexic. We didn't even go into that part. But I'm ADHD and dyslexic, so I'm good at understanding the holographic system, but I'm crappy at everyday accountability. And so the who, not how is the core to me figuring out how to be successful.
Love that. And then second, what is one piece of advice you'd give to your younger self when you were starting out?
Don't be distracted by shiny objects. That's how I got
Every
into
real estate
2009.
investor needs to hear that.
I was into so many shiny objects that I wasn't thoughtful about what I was buying or what I was doing. I became a lot more thoughtful after 2010 and 11. I got very thoughtful, as you can tell, right? But I was not very thoughtful. So be thoughtful, trust the math, and have a mentor. If you can't be thoughtful because you don't have all the parameters, find somebody who does. Find a mentor or a consultant, right? Because I think you do that as well. Am I correct in that? Find a mentor and consultant who can help you walk through the math, help you stay grounded while you're experiencing the shiny objects. You can still invest, but find somebody to help ground you. Do it the right way.
Now, our final question, I think you may add to what you said before. What is a book that has been transformational in your investing journey?
Unofficial Guide to Real Estate, of course. The Little Purple Bible with Robert Kiyosaki, of course. And I would say Think and Grow Rich. Being able to understand the mindset of abundance and be willing to do it. And, Napoleon Hill's 16 Laws of Success. All perfectly great books.
Love it. Thank you. Those are great suggestions. And finally, Christina, if people would like to learn more or continue the conversation, what is the best way for them to reach out to you?
Well, ChristinaSuter.com or livearichlife.info are perfectly great websites to find out more. But since I don't really like emails, can I just give you my phone number?
Yes.
Literally, just send me a text. 310 463-5942. If you want to talk, let's talk. As a mentor of mine used to say, eyeball to eyeball and belly to belly. And he had a little bit of a belly, so he literally may have meant belly to belly. But eyeball to eyeball, like we're human beings. Let's do it together. 463-5942. Send me a text. Let's set up a time to talk.
Awesome. And if you're listening, guys, of course, that's all going to be in the show notes below, so you can grab it easily later. Well, that is a wrap on today's episode of The Freedom Blueprint. If you got value from this conversation, just subscribe wherever you're listening, leave a review, and then also, who do you know who could benefit from Christina's story and from the wisdom she shared? Go ahead and shoot this over to her right now, and then make sure to join me again next week for another episode of The Freedom Blueprint.